Thank you so much for getting our cool suit from AutoSport Labs. Here's our assembly instructions. If you have any additional questions, go straight over to AutoSport Labs and look up cool suit. Here we go. To begin, we're going to discuss the layout of the vehicle in the car. What you're going to do is you're going to want to lay the cooler opposite the driver. We're assuming left-hand drive for American cars. If you have right-hand drive, obviously flip this. You're going to want the cooler feed lines to head over to the quick release, and this swirl will indicate where the driver sits. You'll see why that makes sense a little later. The pump comes out of the lower cool line, and the switches will run right up to the front. We actually include a 12-volt cigarette lighter input. You could also use it as a direct line in, and included the switch as well. Everything's included except the shirt that you're going to need, so you can actually build up to 4 shirts, sometimes 5 if you have some smaller drivers, with all the cool suit line included in all the fittings. Next we'll deal with how to mount that cooler. You can see there's included sheet metal screws and large eye bolts that you'll use. You'll butt them right up against the cooler, and once you've done that and you're all mounted down, a little later on you'll be able to clip the ratchet strap through there over the cooler and hold it in nice and tight in the trunk. You want to keep that cooler in the trunk, so heaven forbid if everything goes wrong and everything's flying all the way around inside that trunk, that cooler is not going to come out and hit you. You do not want that to happen. So here is the kit. What's included? You saw those ratchet straps, a lot of the assembly materials, the bulkhead brackets, and the cooler. We'll go through kind of what the rest of this is really quick, but there's the coolant line for the shirts and the main coolant line that's going to come right out of this cooler here. You're also going to have these insulation pieces, and they'll actually keep that water in the coolant line nice and cold for you. And obviously our quick fittings, and those are going to be great to get in and out of the car fast and trade between drivers. Here's that cooler. We're going to talk about how to cut the holes. You're going to want an 1.5 inch diameter or 38mm hole, both here and here. You'll see right here where we're going to locate those holes at. You can see it says 2.5 inches from the outer edge of the cooler and 6.5 inches from the top lid down to make the hole there. On the left side, this is the water return line, 2 inches down from the lid and 2.25 inches in from the side. And that should give you nice space to be able to fit those bulkheads in very well. We'll go through how to mount them in a moment. And here we go with mounting those holes. So you'll cut those holes out nicely. I recommend a hole saw, but you can also use a paddle bit or even an X-Acto knife and just make a nice hole. It gets easier once you've actually made the incision through that area, because you're going to be able to back this up with the bulkhead materials. And what those bulkhead materials do, as you can see, is you'll actually have there's a black elastomer, that O-ring that fits in front of the bulkhead, and the last 1/4 inch you want to coat with the silicone both behind and ahead of that black elastomer before you push it into the hole. Then when you screw that nut on, we often don't use the white O-ring. When you screw that nut on to hold it in place, that'll tighten up and the silicone will seal that off really nicely. So you'll be actually pleasantly surprised once you do use the silicone just how well it works. So for the electronics, it's pretty straightforward. We give you lots of white and red wire, plenty thick. So you're going to run the pump already shows you red and black, so black is white here for your negative line. Run that all the way to the front. You can use your little butt connectors here. So strip away a 1/4 inch of the ends of the cable, and you'll be able to join those with just some pliers. And you'll mount that switch wherever you want. There's a nice little nut attached, so you can mount it on any flat surface with a hole. And then you can cut off either one of these receptacles, load and run the 12-volt adapter right into your cigarette lighter to power the unit. And there is, the front of this actually comes off, and there's a little fuse in there, and we gave you plenty of extra fuses too. So these are the lines coming from that bulkhead. You can see that black O-ring I referred to on the bulkhead before. We include PTFE tape to coat the barbs. You'll take the hose line and dip it in some boiling water, or even hold it for a very short time ahead of some exhaust from a car or a generator, and that'll heat it up enough to where you can shove it right on those barbs and it holds on great. Remember how we laid out the car before. You want to have enough line to go from the cooler to the quick release right next to the driver's seat, and the return line back as well. So make sure those two match up very nicely. These are shown at shorter lengths just for effect here. The pump direction of flow is right out the top, so if you can bolt it down through the bolting mounts that are attached, right out of the top is how that flows out. You'll have a chunk of line that is of coolant line that goes from the bulkhead to the pump, and from the pump to the quick release. And remember to make those two quick release end up in the same place within about a 3-inch distance, so you can do all your fittings in one place that's very close to each other. Again, here's that return line and a little better diagram. Now we'll talk about the shirts. Here's one of our older designs. You can see how it used to kink a little bit up here in the corners. Well, to avoid having that kinking issue, what we've done is created a new design, which is the spiral. The advantage of the spiral being you can take that silicone glue we showed you before that we include right there, and you can use that silicone, lay out these little holes all the way around the pattern you'll be drawing in to your shirt. Keep in mind your shirt needs to be cotton or other Nomex fireproof material. Do not use polymer based shirts. You'll draw this little circle with the silicone glue and then cut a hole or use a hole punch and make the hole in the shirt. And what that little bit of silicone sealant, and you don't need a big mound of it, all you need is about half a millimeter thick on the shirt, just enough to keep it from fraying at that puncture spot. Let it dry and then thread your shirt through there. What's going to happen is that silicone is going to serve both to keep it from fraying and to hold the silicone line in place. You should get something that looks kind of like that when it's all gathered up. After you wear it a while, it'll relax to you. You want to keep that shirt nice and tight, because what you want that tightness to do is keep that coolant line pressed to your body. It makes a big difference, especially when you're in a car for a nice long time, to have that coolant against your body. Here's the finishing ends for the shirts themselves. You can see we just use a short PTFE coolant line section to go on the male quick release and the adapter barb. So you can just dunk that in some boiling water, get it nice and warm, and slide it on, so you get this kind of effect here where you push it all the way on both sides. Then you push on the blue silicone tubing that goes to your shirt and zip tie the very end there. Zip tie it fairly hand tight and trim off the ends, and that'll give you enough to where if you have to break away and jump out of the car, it'll pull clean off and give you a nice release point, but the rest of the time it's going to hold on really tight, and it works great. Okay. Once again, that's the whole cool suit kit you see there. We have some extra hose clamps just in case if you need some extra tightness on those barbs. But that's pretty much it. We look forward to hearing your feedback and how you like the kit. Again, autosportlabs.com, and you can look under Cool Suit and you'll find us and everything you need right there. Take care.